Welcome to the Whole Church Podcast.
Your favorite church unity podcast.
Probably.
If you want to hear from pastors,
Professors.
and everything in between,
Right, sure.
and, the occasional train talk.
Right, yeah. Have we got the podcast for you?
All right, welcome to the Whole Church Podcast. I'm your host, Savior who is like God Christmas. And here is your co-host, by the river Tiber, God is gracious.
Yeah.
I'd say to just go straight to the meanings now,
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I just like that Michael is who is like God. Found that out recently, and I was like, my full name technically means Savior who is like God. Christmas. You got to pause before you say Christmas. Makes it more fun.
So, if you've lost track, this is Joshua Knoll, and I'm TJ, as usual. But, welcome to the show. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. TJ's going to beg now. So, what we need.
We need y'all's help, as usual. There are several things that we need, such as people to design graphics for us to use on our different pages. We need you to support us on Patreon. We need you to strongly consider it.
Okay, so we need cover photos for our Facebook and SoundCloud. We're looking for new theme music for our intro. We need a new computer, audio editing software. We have a lot of needs. If you know of anyone who can help us, you can go that way. Also, shares help a lot. It actually saves us money if you guys share. We don't have to advertise at all, hopefully. And also, you can support us financially with any of those needs or with advertisement. And the way you can support us financially is through Patreon, like he was saying. And it's just patreon.com/The Whole Church Podcast.
Right.
Yeah. So, with that being said, we're going to jump into our icebreaker question. We're here with Chandler Goodrich. And, Chandler, you want to say hi?
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, that was the icebreaker question. No. Today we're going to ask, and we're going to go first, but it's, if you could live in any Disney movie, which one would it be and why? Not what's your favorite. My favorite is Pirates of the Caribbean, but I would never choose to live in that. That would be awful. I would die, DJ.
Yeah, probably.
Also, I'd get scurvy.
Yeah, probably.
I'll eat fruit.
Good question. Okay.
So,
I could live in any movie.
You go ahead.
I think I would choose. Tarzan, because then I could run into people that speak English, but then I could also live in the jungle. I mean, how awesome is that? It's also my favorite of all the Disney Renaissance movies.
It's super cool. They use deep canvas for the first time in Tarzan. And that's, if you don't know what deep canvas is, it's a software they used to generate the tree trunks that he slid on. That's why they looked so real. Because Tarzan's 2D model was sitting on them. And they were computer generated.
And then they gave that software some steroids and came out with Treasure Planet.
Which brings me to my answer. I would choose Treasure Planet for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of regretting my decision. I kind of want to live in Treasure Planet.
Yeah, Treasure Planet's just my favorite Disney movie, and by far the coolest. It's this alternate reality where space is just like Earth's atmosphere, except they can sail on it with their rocket sea ships. They can breathe the air. It's awesome. But black holes still exist. And stars, you just sail past them. It's crazy. And deep canvas is the reason they decided that movie should fail. It cost them a ton of money to use that much.
Yeah, it is a pretty big conspiracy.
Yeah, no, it's the truth.
Yeah, Disney intentionally failed Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
But they might make a live action version, so it could be.
But that's not the point of this episode, even though it could be.
Oh yeah,
we could talk about that for a while.
If I could go with TJ, I would do Treasure Planet also.
Right. So everyone chooses Treasure Planet.
yeah, but if I was stuck on my own, I want to visit the 100-acre woods.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to hang out with Pooh, eat some honey, farm with Rabbit for a while, jump with Tigger, have a good time,
In my student recital this year, I got to play Winnie the Pooh in a Reader's Theater adaptation of The Unbouncing Tigger.
That sounds
It
fast.
was so So fun.
One of my favorite world religion books is The Tao of Pooh, where they explain Taoism from Winnie the Pooh. Because Pooh is the expert at doing nothing, which is a big thing in Taoism. Learning how to do nothing.
Until he gets distracted by the hunger for honey.
Yeah, they don't talk about that. It's fine.
That's minor character flaw. Everyone has one.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
His is just one of the 7.
Yeah, the moral of the story is if you're
Deadly
Taoist, you should just take up Winnie the Pooh as your Jesus and be good.
Yeah, that's what the book says.
Or just not be Taoist.
Yeah.
Man. No. Are we allowed to pick on other religions? Is that okay?
No.
That's not against church unity, is it?
Yeah, it might be. So let's get into the real questions.
Yeah. So, first thing I want to ask, because we're talking about theater and stuff, why do people who come to a podcast to listen about church unity, why do they care about theater?
Well, it's not so much theater as it is drama. If you read the Bible at all, which if you're a Christian, that's fundamental. You should be.
Yeah, it's a small thing.
Just look at it and think about everything you're reading. How much drama is there in the Bible already? I mean, if you look at what Moses bringing children of Israel out of Egypt, how much drama is there? He grew up in Pharaoh's household.
Yeah.
Killed someone.
Well, that's
And then ran away and lived in the land of Canaan. And then he, out of nowhere, is called by God and is spoken to by God out of a burning bush that is not being destroyed by the fire that is burning, and is called to lead his people out of Egypt. And then we get the story behind the Passover, and we get him leading them to the Red Sea, God parting it, and it's staying parted while he's holding up his arms. I mean, just thinking about the amazement of everything that is written. That is drama. The Bible is dramatic. From the very beginning to the very end, it is so dramatic.
Yeah. And that's,
why I'm going to talk about, drama as it relates to the Bible. Because, I mean, that's literally where it comes from. That is my philosophy of drama.
Yeah. And that's, just backtrack a little bit, but, yeah, sorry, backtrack first. That's a few questions, but, first off, I know we talked about it before the podcast, but those listening might not know, you graduated from a art school. I can't remember exactly what you said, but can we catch everybody up on your history with the subject?
Okay. Well, I've kind of, ever since I was a kid, I've always been interested in movies and storytelling. Ever since I was 3, some of my earliest memories are enjoying watching films and television shows and things like that. And I just kind of, just gravitated to it. And then when we started doing plays in church, I was like, oh, there's a way we can use that. This is great. And then eventually, flash forward to high school, that's when I first got into film. And to graduate from high school, one of the things I made for my senior project was a short action film. It's the very first movie I ever made. It was truly awful, but I had such a blast making it, and I learned a lot. And then after that, I graduated from Spartanburg Methodist College with an Associate of Fine Arts, but my fine arts degree was focused on theater. And then a year later, I started attending the Academy of Arts Christian Conservatory, where I majored in film and media, but I didn't only have my hands on a camera or anything like that. I was taking acting classes with the theater students. You know, your average classroom size in a college, our student body was probably less than that. There have been maybe anywhere from 19 to 20 something of us. And while we were taking classes, we were also being involved in professional stage productions. I mean, we were doing things like, not a lot of plays that you may have heard of, but there are some. A lot of them based in reality, some based on, products that you're very familiar with. I did everything from, you know, the Chronicles of Narnia to a play about, the Norwegian resistance, during World War II.
That sounds cool.
Yes, it was quite fun. And I've done one called Radium Girls.
Yeah.
And that was about, you know, when people were discovering that certain compounds in, I think there was a glue they were using or whatever to glue certain pieces together in this factory that was in America. It's an American story. And they didn't realize that radium was an ingredient of it, and they didn't realize that it was causing, you know, major problems.
Yeah.
People were getting radiation poisoning from it. And the company was not, you know, paying out to treat these patients. So there was big lawsuits going on and things like that. And, you know, a lot of deep stories, but a lot of that were, you know, based biblically. I got to be in a play that was about the Book of Esther. And that was, and when I went back and read the Book of Esther, it was like being on stage again. Because doing a biblical play, you know, you're not given every single detail of every conversation that was given, but you try your best as a writer to write and make sure that what you write does match as much as you can according to the actions that happened in the Bible, that are recorded in the Bible.
Oh yeah, with the Book of Esther, I actually, we talked about the Bible as literature a few times on the podcast before, especially with the episode with Peter Enns. What's that, scholarly talk? Yeah. But the Book of Esther, I remember whenever I did a class at UNCW called The Bible as Literature, and when we were studying what literary irony is, and you look through the Book of Esther, and it's like, oh, this is the most blatant example of literary irony possible. It's beautiful. Which I assume translates into what you're talking about with theater. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sort of. But the big thing behind what we do at the Academy of Arts is, you know, it's the philosophy behind it. The cool thing about acting, and I think for a while it was a misnomer that, you know, acting is worldly and that anything like movies and TV shows.
No, it is. We're just doing this podcast trying to get you saved.
It's not of God or anything like that, but drama as a tool for ministry is great, and it is very important to distinguish it as not entertainment, although it can be entertaining at some time, and you can get some entertainment value from it. But mainly, it is to make the Bible come alive. That is the idea of drama as it relates to the Bible. I personally believe that it comes from it, because when you read the stories, I mean, there's so much drama in there. And it's very important to know that it is not of Satan. From the very beginning of the world, what does Genesis 1:1 say? In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So God is creative. That is a part of his nature, to be creative, because he is the creator.
Yeah,
And
I can see how that would make sense.
yeah,
I guess
definitely.
no one really thinks about it, but you kind of have to be creative if you created everything, I guess.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it really is crazy. And how did he create? He spoke the world into existence. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. That is that is the principle that the Academy of Arts bases their acting on. Their philosophy of acting comes from that. It is true. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. How do you get an abundance? Well, you have to think. It comes from the thoughts first, and then you act it out, and then you speak. So think, act, speak is the principle. And another one that is very important. Acting is the art of reacting, and that's something that even Stella Adler and Stanislavski, when they created their acting methods that a lot of actors study today, most of them do, in fact. They said that acting is reacting. That's what it is. So when you read, I would encourage you to just give your due diligence to just react to what is going on. React to what you are reading. And
it's good no matter what you're reading, honestly. Makes books mean more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I was talking about the Bible. I'm sorry I didn't specify that. But next time you read the Bible, take a moment to react.
Right.
Take a moment to just react to what is happening. Think about it. Try and picture it in your head.
A good, we just did our denomination's youth retreat. I worked as support staff, and they had me teach a bunch of the kids about how to take note when you're reading the Bible, how to journal, and that counts as reacting, right? If you're not
Definitely
creatively blessed, you can write down the thoughts that come to your head, and that's a great way to read the Bible. And it'll help you understand more, usually.
That is meditation on the Word.
Right.
And, acting, for me, is meditation in motion. Because, Joshua 1:8 says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then shalt thou make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt see good success.
Yeah. Well, that's where
So, taking notes, acting it out. I mean, I personally take notes in my scripts when I'm reading, because you can't pick up on that stuff unless you can't pick up on the subtext unless you are really thinking on it and looking at the flow of the story. People don't always say what they mean.
Yeah. Well, that's where we've had Don Whitney on the podcast before too, and his book, one of his books, is Spiritual Disciplines. He talks about journaling and how it's taking the time to react to the text and kind of internalize it. And he talks about all books are really a conversation. The author is talking to you, and how you react to it completes the conversation, which is why a lot of people think it's good to write notes in books, even though a lot of people think it's kind of like blasphemy, whatever. I think it's great if you get one of the journaling Bibles with little notes side on the section, because most books, you write a note in, you can't talk back to the author, not really. You just get his side. You could have your side, but he doesn't hear it.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He can't react.
With the Bible, even though it's written by all these different people, and there's all the redactor hypothesis and all that other stuff, ultimately God's the author. He does actually hear what you have to say when you react to it. So It's important stuff. So not just in journaling
Definitely.
and acting like what you're talking about. Whatever we do, it's important to react, especially if you really believe it's coming from God. Don't let God be the only one talking in the conversation.
Yeah.
But with
No one
that,
likes
it
that.
is also important to make sure that your reactions are true to the word, because the word says to bring every thought into captivity before God. And we are humans. We are not perfect beings. Because of Adam and Eve's decision to not only disobey God, but put the blame on someone else and not take responsibility for their actions, we are imperfect. That is the reason we die, and our lives are temporary. We have to make sure that we are not only thinking of ourselves when we do this. That's why the Word of God says to bring every thought into captivity before God. So when I act, when I interpret a script dramatically, I'm always praying that I have the thoughts of the character. Not only that, but help me learn from the character. Because sometimes, you have to play evil characters. And it's like, how do you do that? Well, evil characters are basically doing what they think is right. But that doesn't mean, if you're playing an evil character, that you need to think what they're doing is right. You need to understand how they are thinking, understand that it is wrong, and understand where that character fits into the story, and give it its due diligence. And you have to make sure that you are learning something from that, and that you are trusting God not to lead your mind in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Well, even with it, I would think getting in the mind of an evil character and being able to play that could allow you to see that evil in yourself and potentially better yourself.
Right.
You realize, oh crap, I kind of do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, every now and then I let Mufasa drop down into a tranquilling gazelle.
So if you start aligning yourself to play an evil character and you find yourself thinking, that's exactly how I would react to that situation. Maybe it's a good time to look at yourself and realize you're.
One of the other spiritual disciplines is prayer and meditation. You might need to practice that.
Yeah.
So with you talk a lot about trauma in the Bible. Yeah, I don't know what this question's supposed to be, DJ.
So you mentioned something about Song of Songs earlier.
Oh, do I get to jump to that?
Yes.
Oh, man, I enjoy this. So I really enjoy anything that's like the theories of who wrote the Bible and who redacted it, put it together, and all that. I enjoy all of that. And a common one with Song of Songs, which, given all of the different archaeological evidence and yada yada yada, not to bore everybody, but it does look like Song of Songs is written as a Greek play. Very, like, the way it's written, it's, this is his line, this is her line, it's already staged that way. What are your thoughts on Song of Songs?
That is a fantastic question.
It's a very theatrical book.
I am not surprised, because that's one I'm still studying, and I'm trying to learn more about it. But the Song of Songs was written by Solomon, the son of
I
David.
hugely disagree, but continue.
And David wrote a lot of the Psalms, and if you read those, just the poetic imagery that he uses is amazing. And then you come to Solomon, his heir, who inherited all of Israel at a young age. He was given wisdom And that's how we get the Proverbs. And then in Ecclesiastes, you get more of a reflection of what happened after he made, all the mistakes that he had made in his reign. And then you come to Song of Solomon, and that is really fascinating. I've heard people talk about it like, it is a picture of how God pursues us. That it wasn't just something that, he's high and mighty and decided, oh, I think I'll just spare some mercy on these people. No, he was moved by love. And God so loved us.
I think I've heard "For God so loved the world" in one of those Bible verses.
It's in there.
Yeah. One of those ones. No,
I think I've read that somewhere.
Yeah.
But just focusing on the first part of that, God so loved the world. He so loved us. And we can see a picture of the love that God has for us in Song of Solomon. We see it take many different routes. Love doesn't have just one flavor.
Right. Comes in vanilla.
It's strawberry.
One fruit has 9 different flavors. Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. All of that comes into play.
Yeah. That's interesting that you see it
I want to
as Solomon. I very much think it really does read like a Greek play. I've always been in the camp of it was written more in the Greek times. They kind of use Solomon as a character, but it is interesting just the way all of it unfolds and how different people view it all and how it comes together. But yeah, Song of Songs is a great book. Either way, it's fascinating.
Yeah. So we also want to talk about how the church and the theater relate to one another, even so much as
They're best friends.
Yeah, they're best friends. Every church that we've been to, that I've been to at least, has a drama team.
My favorite church on Broadway.
Right, of course. But even the church Chandler and I go to, we were always in our dramas.
Y'all go to the same church?
Yeah, we go to the same church.
Oh,
yeah. But how does that relate to the theater, and how does theater relate to the church?
Okay. Well, that is also a very good question. I think before we can get into that, we have to discuss the fact that drama is not a thing of the world. It comes from God. Acting, even, comes from God. There are biblical examples of acting. In fact, a great one that my teachers taught me is in 2 Samuel, chapter 14, verses 2 and 3. This was, when David was trying to decide what to do about Absalom. Should he execute him or not? Or should he spare his son? Should he, lay the law down? Or should he have mercy on his child? Should he do that? So Joab was trying to make him see what's going on and make the right decision. So in verse 2 it says, "And Joab sent Tekoa and fetched a wise woman," and then there's a parenthetical, "a woman of above average understanding of life and law. And he said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner." Feign means, put on, act. "And put on now mourning apparel." That's putting on a costume. "And anoint thyself with oil." That's putting on makeup. So she would look like the character. "And be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead." She was to become the character. "And he gave her direction." That's directing. "And come to the king. She was to assume the actions of the character. That's the act. And speak on this manner unto him. Think, act, speak. Speak as a character would speak. So Joab put the words in her mouth. That is giving her a script. She rehearsed it until she could say it word for word and say it convincingly. So she was given the part. And then she plays that character convincingly. She focuses on the thoughts of the characters. And this is a big thing. Some people can cry on stage, some people can't. I've learned that in order to show good emotion, you don't focus on having emotion. You focus on thoughts. You don't get emotion from you don't get emotional from emotion. You get emotional from thoughts that stir within you, and you think on them, and they have an effect on you. That is where the emotion comes in. That's where the act comes in. It is fighting for thoughts and trusting in God to help you portray that emotionally. And then she spoke. And she was able to convince David that her story was real. And the key thing about this story is that it related directly to his situation. And from that, he was moved. And he made decrees, and he was able to set aside the law to have mercy on one soul. And then she takes the time to reveal herself. And Joab comes out. And he realizes what happened. And Joab relates it directly to his situation after. And but since he's already made the decree, he can't take it back. His word is final. So, drama, literally acting, was used to show a major decision being made about, do you uphold the law or do you be realistic and have mercy on your child?
Well, and then I guess Jesus did a sort of acting. I guess it was I can't think of the verse or anything, but when the woman, I believe the Samaritan, came to him and was asking for a blessing or healing or whatever, and Jesus was like, "Yeah, but you're just a dog to me." Like, straight up calls this lady a dog. And she goes, "Okay, but even dogs deserve the scratch from the table." Like, Jesus was testing her. He was like, "All right, let's see. Let's see how humble she really is. If I treat her the way the other Jews treat them." And then she said that, and he was like, "Yeah, your humility's earned this," and kind of bestows blessings on her. So even Jesus kind of did that, right? Like, where he was like, let's play along. Let's see where people's heart really is. And kind of did a little bit of method acting on the spot there with that, I guess.
Yeah. And that's another thing I want to talk about, because method acting, I don't believe, that was something that, can't remember who came up with it. I just learned it recently.
That's fine. We don't know either.
But it's somebody with, the method. What a lot of people call method acting is the way it applies is you break yourself down and rebuild yourself up as the character. So you convince yourself in your mind that you are the character. But I think that's really unhealthy. And
Heath Ledger would like to agree with you.
If you notice what, going back to that example in 2 Samuel, what she did wasn't necessarily break herself down and rebuild herself as a woman in mourning. The wise woman from Tekoa was still her. she is still herself, but she dwelled on the thoughts of the character, studied the script, focused on thought, and let her, and then she portrayed that. She thought, she acted, and she did not, and spoke. She did not break herself down and rebuild herself as a completely different person. I think that is really mentally unhealthy. I've seen a lot of actors have mental breakdowns on set because of that. And I think it's important the idea is to temporarily become. When the scene is over, you don't have to live in that world anymore. It's over. The wise woman from Tekoa did not do that. She did not live in the scene after the scene was done.
That being said, if Disney casts me as the next Captain Jack Sparrow, I am going to continue to live in that world. I won't leave.
If I get to be James Pleiades Hawkins in the live-action remake of Treasure Planet, then I think I will continue living in Treasure Planet. But that's not directly related to what you're saying.
Oh, man.
And that also brings me to the idea that when you think of movies, what's a good movie you saw recently?
Treasure Planet.
Think of? When you think good movie, what comes
Caribbean.
to mind? Treasure Planet. Okay. Why don't you think of something that was made by, say, the Kendrick brothers?
I don't know.
The guys who made Facing the Giants, Fireproof.
I can't answer that because I don't like either of those movies.
There was one movie I did that I enjoyed. Just don't remember what it was, so I must not have enjoyed it that much. Facing Giants,
But yeah, the
not great. It was good.
thing I want to get to is, why do we remember the movies that Hollywood puts out, but we don't think of those movies as, Christian film or Christian theater as, talented? Why don't we think? And I think it's because of writing. I think writing is something that is fundamental to learn. And the more you learn about writing, the more you realize it's related to the other departments of drama. It's related to acting. It's related to directing. Because writing is acting with a pen, pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
You are making those characters live, but you also have to remember that they are people, that they have their own voice. And so you need to give them that, because God makes us all individually. I can never be a Joshua Knoll or a TJ Blackwell, but you guys could never be a Chandler Goodrich.
Oh, yeah?
Because God makes us all individually. You have something to provide to the kingdom of God that nobody else can.
No, I feel
Or
like
they can, not in the same way that you do it.
Yeah, I feel like in the Christian movie world, what usually happens is someone has the vision of a movie, but not the writing skill to make it what it needs to be. That's just my perspective.
I actually had this conversation with my good friend Mark yesterday.
Really?
Almost the exact same conversation. Yeah. We were comparing Narnia to Lord of the Rings, and why Lord of the Rings is so much more thought of, better thought of. I think he used the term regal.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
Sounds like Mark.
Yeah. But his, our thought was, which I kind of like let it trickle over into a lot of this stuff. Lewis obviously I love C.S. Lewis, but he's not as subtle at all. It's, here's a nice story. Here's the Christian part. The main character will die and come back again and save everyone. It's it's in your face. If you're not looking for Christian doctrine,
if you
Narnia
read those
is good.
books, you'll notice that, I've heard it mentioned that it's written in the book, because I haven't read the books. I've just done adapted plays. But yes, I definitely want to. But Aslan says in one of them that he goes by another name in Peter's world.
Yeah.
Which is basically saying he's not a representation of Jesus, but he is literally Jesus in another world.
Yeah. He did a lot of that. He did a space trilogy that was pretty much the same thing.
Intentionally like that, you know.
Yeah, Aslan meant to play the role of Jesus and God.
And I think it doesn't make it a better or worse story than Lord of the Rings. But I do think if you're not looking for Christian doctrine, Narnia hits you in the face and you might not like that. Whereas Lord of the Rings still presents Christian doctrine, but it's subtle enough.
But at the same time, why does it
doesn't
hit them
push
in the
everyone
head?
away? Yeah, it doesn't. It's
so on the
well, and I think that's the same thing in current day movies. You know, you look at cartoons. VeggieTales is not as well thought of as Frozen. However, the people who worked on Frozen, close friends with Phil Vischer, also Christian, and they say the reason that Frozen did the way it did is they wanted to show that agape love is more powerful than romantic love.
Wow.
And they made that point without beating you over the face with the Bible. And you know what? They were able to make the point, make a good movie, everybody still loves it. And I think that's what happens more times than not. The movies that are subtly Christian are the ones that people like.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. If you read the Bible, yes, at some points it does feel like a little hit you over the head, but
yeah, they see Jesus a lot. So
honestly, if you just think and it's like, you know, putting the drama back into it, using your imagination to put the drama back in that's already there to bring it out. You don't see a lot of stuff with certain decisions. It almost seems like people follow it immediately without questioning it. But I think, again, that might also play into the way we read it. So, like, I'm always very specific on, you know, reading. If you're going to read the Bible, you know, put some drama into it.
Yeah. Well, and also, what I think
when
makes the Bible...
Stephen was getting stoned, you know what this process of stoning is? It's not having a bunch of people throw rocks at you. They take you outside the city, they push you into a pit that is about 20 feet deep at least. And if you survive that, they will take stones the size of your head and just drop them on you.
Yeah. It's actually
stoning.
An interesting thing to me.
When Stephen was going through this verse, Lord, lay not this sin to their charge. No. He was probably either screaming it, or he could have been trying to just hold on to life. Maybe a little angry, probably fighting the desire to just curse them. You know, anybody who hits us, we want to hit them back, but choosing not to, that is strength.
Yeah.
That is
strength. A lot of, like, Christian media today, they make the movie, the TV show itself Christian, if that makes sense. I mean, it's a big difference from the Bible. You know, in Facing the Giants, you're not going to see someone actually get pelted, or someone curse someone out, or a witch come up, or, you know, these kind of movies, you're not going to see all the affairs, any of that. But all that is in the Bible. The Bible is not PG at all.
Yeah. But at the same time, the Bible does not condone that. Just because
it's able to have Christian characters in a non-Christian story, but that we don't see a lot of that in Christian media. Yeah.
And I think the key to writing those scenes into film is writing them tastefully, but remembering that, you know, keeping the principle in mind to not tempt your brother to do wrong. You want to write it in a way that reveals what's going on, that is honest, but does not tempt people and make them think and dwell on it to the point that it bothers them, or dwell on it to the point where they think, oh yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine. It happened in this movie, so...
Yeah, that's something Passion of the Christ did really well, actually. Just as a movie. Like, it made it very real, but it didn't... I don't feel like it crossed any major lines.
Yeah.
That's what... see, when you think about successful Christian
the nudity
movies,
at the end was kind of pushing it, but, you know, other than that, I thought it was fine.
So, when we think about successful Christian movies, what comes to mind in recent years?
Passion of the Christ. What do you mean?
In recent years.
Recent years?
That was a long time ago.
I literally, God's Not Dead, too?
That's it. God's Not Dead.
They're awful.
It's that. I think it did one thing really well, though. It did not shy away from the fact that atheists exist and can be very vocal about that.
Yeah, I wish
everything else was
real
super
portrayal
on the nose.
Atheists. Yeah, a lot of their portrayal of atheism is just not accurate at all. The whole professors just don't really act like that. It's just annoying.
Yeah, but the concept, at least, was the closest we've seen to something that could have been
just acknowledging
a real Christian movie.
Mm-hmm.
In the same vein as
at the same time, though, you also have to take in mind people are different, and some people react that way. Some people don't speak like what we deem as normal or natural.
I definitely did know that.
Sometimes you definitely have to. You have to take the. You just have to trust in the Lord, really. I mean, that's my key to writing. Is I trust in the Lord, and then I think another important thing to writing anything good is showing it to friends and saying, feel free to just tear it apart. If I don't see any red ink on this when I get it back, I will be very, very surprised, and I will probably say, read it again.
Yeah, Stephen King writes a book about writing, and he says, you pick, he said, like 3 or 5 friends, and you're writing, whatever you're writing it to them. The whole time you're thinking they're the ones who are going to read this story. And you give it to them to edit and come back. And when everybody else reads it, it will also be for them. But because you had these people in mind, you're constantly aware of how people are going to read it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think the key there is you don't have, he said, 3 to 5 friends. I don't think, did he specify, like, if they wrote or not?
No, one of them was his wife, which was
nice.
interesting. But she also was a big writer, it turns out. She just didn't get as popular. She just loved it.
Huh.
Yeah, I do kind of a similar thing. Like, when I write a script, I'll send it to a friend that I know is a good writer, and then I'll send it to somebody who doesn't write, and I'll ask what they think about it. Because, ultimately, most people don't, write movies on a regular basis, or short films, or stories, or things like that. They might in their spare time, but
I kind of
for the
want
most part, people, the average person doesn't make movies, but they watch it and they know what's good. They know
I make them all the time.
Good. I don't have a helicopter license, but if I saw a helicopter hanging in a tree, I don't think I need a license to know that something went wrong.
You'd be surprised.
No, I do want to, now that we're wrapping up, I want to jump ahead to the Unity part of all that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but, because I do think a lot of what we're talking about here, a lot of it does come down to a huge part of the church is very anti-Hollywood, which they take to mean anti-media, and a large part of, Hollywood or media is almost just, oh, that's a Christian movie, can't be any good. Which it does create problems. Like, it's going to be hard for you to get good actors in a Christian movie because of that kind of tension that already exists.
That's what I thought was really interesting about the Godzilla King of the Monsters reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. One of the critics, because it has a pretty low critical review score on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's amazing, though.
Great movie. One of the critics said they didn't like the fact that there were religious overtones.
What religious overtones?
Well, because there are.
But
they thought that was a problem.
Oh, the cross in that one scene that was there for a lot of the movie. I forgot about that. It just didn't seem as... Yeah.
But that's something that some Hollywood critics think of religion. That's bad. We can't have that in our movie.
Yeah, and it does go both ways, though. Like, I grew up hearing all secular music was bad. And it wasn't until I, went to college that I even bothered questioning that.
You listen to secular music?
But, a lot of my, even my own family are just anti-anything. Taylor Swift, you can never listen to Taylor Swift, how dare you? And I mean, and it goes outside of music, it goes, movies, whatever. So because of that tension, I think it's hard to make good Christian movies, and I think it's difficult for most Christians to see maybe blatant Christian values they can pick up in other movies, like what we talked about in Frozen. You know, I don't think most Christians see that.
Or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, honestly. But how do we go about kind of addressing some of this tension? How does your average Christian Susan, what can she do to kind of address that situation?
Well, to bring about the unity of this, and we have to remember that, number one, God is creative. His word is very dramatic. But at the same time, how does a Christian, I'm going to relate it to navigating the industry. What did Jesus say about how people would know that they are his disciples?
They would love one
Yes.
another.
That ye have love. And you have to approach this with love. And to see better drama, honestly, it takes being honest with yourself, remembering that it is not about you and what you create. It is not about your voice. It is about the Lord's leading when you act.
Okay, but
and it is important to realize that, if we're going... I'm sorry, you were saying?
Oh, no, you're good. I was just an average John or Susan who isn't in theater, they go to church. Is there anything that they can do to either support good Christian media or address the whole tension we have with Hollywood? Like, is there something applicable that they can go out and do, like, right now? Should they go watch Godzilla?
Yes.
They can, average Christian Susan can always bring every thought into captivity before God. To not watch things blindly. But notice what people do. Just paying attention. It's basically people watching. I mean, we all do that.
Mm-hmm. No, I never do that.
I think and if you say you don't, I think you're a complete liar, because everybody.
No, I work in the mall. There's no way for me to ever watch people.
Yeah, in a mall, nobody watches people.
Yeah, no, it's impossible.
Yeah, it's impossible. Nobody there. I mean, how do you even do that? But yeah, everybody can bring every thought into captivity before God. When you watch a movie, don't let them blindly feed their principles into you.
Right.
You can always watch and see what people are doing, because there are subliminal messages, whether you want to believe it or not. I do believe everybody thinks of the subliminal messages that end up in their movies.
Right.
I've heard people say, there's no way they thought that when they were writing. I think that's not true.
It sounds like you're not a writer. But,
yeah, basically just turning your brain on.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can do that.
Be intentional.
You don't have to be a writer to notice how somebody is speaking to you.
Yeah.
We all understand when somebody's being sarcastic, some people at different levels, but, we all can generally, for the most part, pick up in some form when somebody's kidding with us. That doesn't take an enormous acting or writing ability.
Yeah. And I want to say, there's two sides to that coin. Yeah, don't let them sneak their values into you with the subliminal messages, but also intentionally be aware of when there are good Christian values in the movie. One thing that, her kids always complain about it, but Miss Christie, we would go watch, like, Avengers, and afterwards she'd be like, what do you think about these underlying principles and how it relates to the Bible? Like, she doesn't say it like that, but, like, she lays it out and makes you think, like, biblically, what does this movie say? And I think that's a good way to watch movies. I mean, I know it's can be annoying for some people, but I think it helps a lot to understand your Christian values in that lens.
So, Chandler, what do you think we will see change if the average Christian man or woman starts
Susan.
intentionally
Only Susan is doing it.
starts intentionally watching their movies and thinking about what it means? And what do you think will happen if, the writers put more genuine effort into their movies, their writing?
Writing?
Yeah.
What do you think? We need to see an explosion of creativity in the world of Christian art. I think that, we will start, because a lot of people don't realize, why are there so many remakes and reboots of things? It's because we are telling Hollywood with our wallets what we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the more we do that, we're going to tell the people who create movies, this is what we want to see. And I think, especially in the world of Christian entertainment, we want to make sure that we are not, basically trying to cause strife. But following Christ is not an easy thing. I mean, some of the most faithful men suffered a lot of horrible things. And some of the most faithful women had suffered a lot of horrible things, but at the same time, there were also a lot of great things that they went through. I mean, look at Esther. That's a prime example. So I think we'll see an explosion of, and a great shift in the kind of movies that are produced, and in the attitude overall of the arts and what they communicate in the church and out of the church.
Fun thing for everybody to do now. A lot of people think the Book of Esther should have been named Mordecai because, when it was written, it didn't have a name. Everybody should read that book and decide who they think the main character is, because I think that's amusing.
So
I still think it's Esther.
Yeah. So, thank you, Chandler. As part of our wrap-up, we like to do what we call the God Moment of the Week.
It's almost never of the week.
We like to try to make it of the week. It can be from whenever. But
it's of the week for our listeners, usually.
Yeah. So we'll start. It's just a moment in which you saw God at work.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and start. Like a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah. We were leaving the recording with Reverend Tino Kennedy. Mm-hmm. And saw a train. I got excited because, trains. And I was like, God bless. This is such a good, blessed moment. It was already a good day. And then I noticed it was a double train. There was a train going both ways. It was fantastic on the bridge that we were going under. And I just felt very blessed from that.
And that might seem very small to most people. But
for me,
it can be that small.
For me, it was just huge. I was like, wow.
You just happen to
I
be
don't know if I've ever seen a double train before.
Ginormous fan of trains. Seeing two at once is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Mine,
very happy.
Yeah. My God moment of the week was, as it usually tends to be, about friendship.
I thought it was going to be about hockey.
Oh, well, I'll get there. But my friend Jason, we went to school together briefly, and he had to leave and move to West Virginia. He visits sometimes, at which, we have to drop everything and go hang out with Jason.
Obviously.
Glad to do it. Love to do it. And that was this weekend, actually. He's visiting now, and I'm here instead of there, unfortunately. But he came, and he got to witness us playing a vintage stick table hockey game. And he's not a fan of hockey. But
there's the hockey in the story.
We were blessed enough to be able to sit down with 5 of us and all really legitimately enjoy playing this 60-year-old game. And it was just really nice. Be able to see not just him, but all the other people that I just don't get to see enough. Enjoy such an old game together. It's good times.
And Chandler, how about you? You have a God moment in the last week or however long that no one will know wasn't a week ago?
Oh boy. I am very, oh my goodness, I am so blessed in that kind of area because there are some amazing things that I've witnessed God do, both big and small. I would say one amazing thing happened last year that I keep citing, and even down to a month ago, it's amazing what God does with the weather. I was out one Sunday in the park just reading my Bible, and I said, God, will you just lead me to the verses that you want me to read today? And it was relatively windy, but it was kind of unpredictable. But some crazy things happened. The wind was flipping my Bible pages. And even when the wind was strong, the pages would not flip until I finished reading certain verses, and then they would flip. And then so then I decided, this is weird. So I'm going to try and flip it back to a different page. Flip back to the first page that I was on. Tried it again. Happened again. Then I decided to turn the opposite way so that my Bible was facing the opposite, so that way if the wind kept blowing, it would blow the pages in the opposite direction.
The wrong way.
Wind flipped directions on me. I kid you not. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yes, sir, I'll read the passage.
So that was amazing.
What was the passage?
I'll carry that with me throughout my whole life. I pray I never forget that.
That is crazy. What was the passage?
I don't remember. It was a series of verses. I was feeling rather discouraged that day, and God was it was that whole month was rather tough.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like in the book of Jude, it says you have to earnestly contend for the faith. Contend is a word that you hear that I've heard a lot in professional fighting. So it's something you got to fight for. Faith is something that you have to intentionally seek out and fight for and pray for it. It is a gift from God, but you have to seek it out and ask for it. And it doesn't come the same way every time. You just have to pursue after it and trust that God will give you the faith, and He will every time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We've got to do an outro. Then we got one last segment we do after we close, just for our Patreon listeners. So, if they support us, they can hear that. If they don't, they're just going to hear us do this outro right now.
Right.
Do.
Bob. So, thank you guys for listening. Please remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Also, remember to run Hostile Takeover on Twitter.
We're awful at it. Please, just do it for us.
Yeah. We, please consider supporting us on Patreon.
Consider it heavily. Consider having your parents support us on Patreon if you're young.
Follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Mixer, everything.
Yeah,
we're all Anchor. We're all good podcasts.
Church podcast, and we actually come up immediately.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, just Google us.
Yeah, so let us know what you think about the show. Give us some feedback at thewholechurch@gmail.com.
Not the whole church podcast, just thewholechurch@gmail.com.
And
we like reading feedback, so send us some so I have something to read.
Just call us, text us, let us know what you think. If you have our information.
Call us, beep us if you want to reach us.
Dun, dun. Okay.
Kim Possible. Oh.
Yeah. So, who are some future guests we're going to have, Joshua?
Disney Plus. Kim Possible.
Yeah, we're going to have Kim Possible, apparently.
Sister Rose.
Thank you, Ron. We're going to have Sister Rose from UNCW.
Rufus.
Rufus, of course.
Yay!
Thank you, Rufus. We're going to have Brother Jeff White.
Of course. Reverend Keno
Kennedy has
my brother.
Second episode.
Yeah. They're going to be talking about Calvinism and Arminianism. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. And at the end of the season, we're going to have Francis Chan.
just isn't aware of that yet.
He just doesn't know he's going to be on the show yet.
He'll figure it out. Probably. Maybe. Soon. Eventually.
So, thanks for listening, guys. This has been the Chandler Goodrich episode.
With your hosts, by the River Tiber, God is gracious.
Yeah.
And Savior who is like God.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas. Of course, yeah. Do. Bob.